What's up, you data-hungry Amazon sellers? This is your host, Tommy Berenger of the Sell, Rank, Win podcast from Merchant Words. And in this podcast, we give you the answers to your most burning questions, actionable insights that you can take away and implement into your business today. So let's go ahead and dive right into today's episode. What do you say? Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Sell, Rank, Win podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Berenger. And as always, we have a very special guest on with us today. My next guest went from working in construction to doing $10 million in sales in his own Amazon FBA business. He then sold that Amazon FBA business for 7 figures. Now he's helping other Amazon sellers and brands get set up for acquisition. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to my good friend, John Elder from Black Label Advisor. How are you doing today, John?
Tommy, I am doing great. It's so great to be back for another episode.
Yes, I'm so glad you're back on. If you guys don't know, we had John on, I think it was episode 21. So you need to check that out. John really knows his stuff. And it was so nice of him to come back on. I reached out to him. I said, hey, we need to do a Q4 prepping podcast. You're my guy. Let's make it happen. And he got back right away. And I said, let's do it.
Yeah. Tommy, the answer is always going to be yes.
That's right. Thank you. Much appreciated, John. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So for those that do not know who you are and that do not know about Black Label Advisor, if you could just briefly tell us a little bit about Black Label Advisor.
Yeah. So Black Label Advisor is kind of a boutique consulting firm. What I do is I offer one-on-one hourly consulting sessions, and that's typically with clients, honestly ranging from beginning sellers to $10 million business owners. And those are kind of like higher level calls. Those are regular calls that I offer. And then I also offer audits, consulting services for listing optimization and copywriting services. So pretty much anything related to Amazon outside of PPC, I am a good resource for people and work with all sorts of different people from different backgrounds. So it's a pretty cool relationship I have with my clients. A lot of agencies out there are larger and they have all sorts of employees. And so I am my one employee, and that's why it's kind of a boutique agency. So it's pretty unique out there.
Very cool. So if you guys need any help there, John's your guy for sure in that space. So now, John, let's dig into the Q4 prepping, right? We need to, as Amazon sellers, get ready for Q4. And, that's why I have you on here to get this all figured out and set up. So after our listeners are done listening to this, they have all their T's crossed and their I's dotted. Yeah. So where do you want to start here? Because I know there's a bit to cover, but I'll let you just go ahead and dive into what you think we should start with first. What do you think?
Yeah. So we should actually dive into logistics and inventory planning first.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So I'll just paint a picture for everyone. If you can imagine the Port of Long Beach, there are hundreds of ships at sea waiting to be unloaded. Okay. So Q4 is going to be an absolute cluster bomb this year. And I don't say that lightly. So every single logistics reporter is covering this. Business reporters are covering it. Sellers are seeing it. The delays with sea shipping is astounding. Okay. It's astounding. So the topic we should cover is how to prep for that. Now we know that looking at last year, for example, for Black Friday, Amazon had a inventory check-in date by November 6th, and they had a check-in date deadline for December 1st for Christmas sales. Mm-hmm. Okay, so everyone listening needs to cushion that with at least 2 weeks. Okay, so the updated dates haven't been published by Amazon yet, but going from last year and the years before, that's kind of roughly what we're looking at. So getting your stuff sent in, really thinking about air shipping your products. I understand a lot of people are like, I don't want to spend that money this year, but you really have to look at your business holistically. If your top 2 SKUs go out of stock December 10th, you are going to lose out on immense opportunity. Okay. So this is something I've had to do in past years. It's basically you kind of take a hit, and the hits. It looks a little different this year because a fully loaded sea container is right now it's ranging from $15,000 to $30,000. Okay, so historically that was like between $3,000 and $5,000. So you have to really look at it and say, crunch the numbers and maybe take a little bit of a hit, and maybe your margin's going to get compressed a little bit, but you're still making net profit holistically for your business. Because if you miss out on those sales for Christmas time, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And so cushioning yourself from a logistics standpoint, and this is where your conversation with the freight forwarder needs to happen and say, hey, give me realistic dates. Can we ship out, talk with your factory. Can we ship this out sooner? Some people kind of wait on the inventory. Right now it's a matter of time, and today's, September 15th. It's really crunch time right now. And, even down to unloading at ports, we're going to be seeing massive delays. So kind of like stretching out a little bit in terms of landmass, go outside of the Port of Long Beach, talk with your freight forwarder and say, hey, can I bring it into Canada? Can I bring it into Texas? Can I bring it into the East Coast? And then use rail and trucking to get it to the Amazon warehouses. So people are going to have to really think outside the box this year. And if people thought last year was bad, what we're going to feel this year is the very worst.
I mean, even with manufacturing, because I'm experienced this with my own manufacturer right now. I've been using them for 5 years now, and it is just delays on top of delays with my manufacturing for one of my SKUs. Not all of them, but
have they mentioned why that's happened?
They just said it's regarding the materials. So gathering materials, that's always their step one. So we're gathering. They mentioned gathering the raw materials, and then they go ahead and then create the product, right? So that's kind of where that has been. And I guess that could be a shipping issue within China. Who knows? I mean,
that could also be. You
got to account for it all,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Every part of the process, there's the potential delay right now, unfortunately. And then you have to think about also the backlog at factories right now. They're not like, oh, we'll take your order and good to go. No, they're backlogged because of the material delay. There's a bunch of people in front of you right now. So sellers just need to think
have some realistic expectations right now for all that.
Yes,
definitely.
Yes. And for the sellers listening, the focus has to be, it's okay. You really have to think about your top sellers. Do whatever you can to bring those units in to Amazon to sell for Q4. Some of your slow sellers, don't worry about those guys. Really just focus on, honestly, most sellers that I work with, they have, a small group of, let's just say, home run products. You really need to focus on those because that brings in most of your revenue in your business. So
absolutely, that 80-20 rule.
Exactly.
And going back to something that you alluded to earlier, John, shipping. Some of you brands out there, some of you sellers out there are going to have to ship in by air, and it's going to it might be a little bit more costly, but maybe just ship in half of what you usually would ship by sea, so you can at least get that product in for Q4. So that is a good point that you made earlier. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and a lot of people make the assumption that sea shipping is always going to be the best case for them, and you have to take into account, the fact that with all the delays, you're looking at a 2-month vessel shipping time. So you have to think, okay, air shipping, it's between 5 and 7 days. Okay, that's really fast. And then you have to do the math, and a lot of people don't do the math, and their math could be affected, especially if you're selling oversized items. If you're paying $20,000-$25,000 for a sea container right now, you just got to do the math and see what that is on a per unit basis, and see what FedEx Air is on a per unit basis. And then also get multiple quotes. A lot of people just assume you get one quote and that's it. You should be getting 3 quotes and doing sanity checks with either route you take.
Absolutely. Very important to get that in there, or else you guys are going to be losing out on a lot of your money, a lot of your sales, and get those high top selling products in there, just like John was saying. All right, so what's next here? Should we move into cleaning up some listings here? What do you say?
Yeah. It's a kind of a boring subject because honestly, most sellers, I'm guilty of this too, is, you optimize your listing, you have everything's great. And then you go a whole year and you're like, you know what? I haven't even looked at this. Mm-hmm. Now's a good time to kind of like just go back to the drawing board, do a self audit of your images, do an audit of your bullet points, make sure everything's formatted correctly. This is just kind of like a quick tip for the podcast, but add certain keywords like gift, Christmas to your bullet points. So your bullet points, that gets all sent into the algorithm. So make sure you have some things that are easily tweaked. So instead of saying, this radio is great for the house, say this radio is great for the house and it's a great Christmas item. So making those like small little tweaks for sales for Christmas time is huge. And then just do an audit for your keywords. Really go back and look at your title and compare your title with your competitors. Use merchant words, for example, and go and look at your backend keywords to make sure that those are optimized. Make sure you're targeting the keywords that you want to be targeting, and you're not stuffing it with a bunch of random stuff. So really just do kind of some analysis yourself on your listing. And go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say is also we have a new product coming out that will, and I would love to have you on as a beta tester. That will just, you plug in a couple of keywords, and we have a proprietary AI algorithm that spits back a entire Amazon listing within a minute. So I don't know if we can have that ready for Q4, but just that kind of made me think of that. So I want to get you on the beta tester list for sure if you're
Absolutely.
willing.
That sounds awesome.
Awesome. So cool. Okay. So yeah, clean up your listings, guys. Don't stay complacent. Make sure, you dig into Merchant Words and figure out what are the most current searched keywords, most relevant keywords being searched for your product at the moment. And make sure you switch out at least the title, maybe update the title, and, make sure you guys are in line to get some more eyeballs on your listings, because everything is going to make a difference in your sales, especially coming up to fourth quarter here. Now, another thing that I wanted to speak to you about, John, and you wrote an article on this, I think it was a few weeks ago, is how important it is to optimize the pictures. And you were alluding to that a little bit earlier as well. Optimizing the images on your Amazon listing, if we can go into that, because I think that's very important.
Absolutely. And optimization comes down to, sizing standards. But really the big picture for optimization is looking at conversion rates. And so you have to really ask yourself, especially with PPC, when someone comes and sees, clicks on your picture, then they see a zoomed up picture, they have about 60 seconds to look at that picture, and maybe look at a couple pictures, maybe look at bullet points. Most people just skip over that stuff, but they're really making a decision very fast based on your pictures. So really think about the features, and, if you're going to use lifestyle pictures, make sure you're showcasing the features with lifestyle pictures. A mistake I see all the time is people who, are using lifestyle pictures, but it's not really like showing me anything special about your product. Anybody can post up a picture, basically take a picture from stock photography, edit it, put your product in, and then there's nothing else. Okay. Like, for example, if you're selling something like a kitchen knife, tell me, do call outs, do an us versus them picture. Think about every single thing that your product is better than everyone else. And, it comes down to what's the material makeup of the blade of that knife? What's the handle? Is it ergonomic? What type of balance ratio does it have? So you should get into the mechanics and the weeds for that. And a lot of people don't. And so that's part of that. And then when you're uploading pictures, make sure you have keywords there that make sense for that, and make sure your sizing is per the terms of service. And if anyone's needing that info, you just go to, I think you could just Google search it, Amazon picture listing standards. And then there's a terms of service page that tells you exactly the pixels, what to do for like saving the file on your computer and then uploading it. For example, if you're going to sell knives, you're not going to want to have something that says this is a book, for example. So you want the keywords to make sense, and Amazon's pretty clear on what they expect for that.
Absolutely. And going back to the pixels, I always make mine 1500 by 1500 because you want it this size so it is zoomable. And if it's not over, I think 1,000 by 1,000, I believe it is. I have to double check on that, but it won't be zoomable. So you can't, have the buyer come in and see a clearer picture of your images. And like John was saying, these Amazon buyers are buying with their eyes. They're coming in, looking at the pictures right away. Think about you guys when you're out there shopping on Amazon. What do? Maybe you'll read the title, and then you'll go ahead and go right to the pictures. Do you really read the description? Do you really read the bullet points? Those are mainly there for SEO purposes. So going back to what John was saying earlier, make sure that you have the right keywords in there in order to get some eyeballs to your listings. And then in turn, make sure you have some good looking lifestyle photos in there. And then also add some copy into those images as well. Not the main image, because then you will get your listing taken down, but the other photos there, maybe just speaking a value proposition to your product. And just like, for example, you say kitchen knives, and if kitchen knives is the most relevant keyword to your product and has the highest amount of search volume, make sure you're using that in a sentence inside of those images.
Absolutely. And something to keep in mind too, and a lot of people make this mistake, is don't have a lot of randomness going on in your pictures. A lot of people do that. And really, if you go to Anker, ANKER, the super seller of chargers for phones, everything they do is consistent. Okay, their color schemes are consistent. Their lifestyle images are consistent. Don't have a bunch of random lifestyle images. Have it look and feel cohesive. And honestly, we have so many examples of amazing photography on Amazon now. There's really no excuse to upload a bunch of random stuff. So keep it really focused. And something else people should think about: the pictures are a great place to showcase that you support a charity. So, for example, I have clients that support local charities. I used to sell a product that did well, for my demographic, and there was a charity in Dallas that $1 per unit actually went to that charity. And so that's kind of rich for some people. So some people, they do 1%, and it's about giving back. But at the same time, you should be telling your customers that you're doing that. You shouldn't just like have that randomly in a bullet point. You should slam your marketing with that and say, if you're going to buy from me, know that I'm supporting this charity. The conversion rates are going to go up, and people want to be part of something bigger than just going on Amazon.com and buying a product. If there's a founder story, and let's say you love dogs and cats and you want to, support a local charity for adoptions, do that, but put that into one of your pictures. And that should be either in one of your 6 pictures. I recommend a video for your 7th slot, or put that in your A+ content. But you should have anything that separates you from your competition, promote that. So, that's part of the listing cleanup for Q4, is really think about what is that customer looking for. And so that helps to optimize not only for Q4, but long-term for branding purposes.
Absolutely. Could not agree more, John. Incorporating some giving back inside of your business model is very important, especially for giving back. And then also it shows that you're doing something right as a brand, as a business. And if you do choose, when you do choose a charity, if you are going to incorporate giving back in your business model, I would advise to make sure it makes sense to what your product is, if you can. Like if you're selling maybe an educational product, give back to maybe something that supports schools for, the youth, the underprivileged youth, or something like that. Something that makes sense there. So if you sell an educational product, you don't want to like give back to the birds or something. It wouldn't really make sense. But I mean, of course, if you are going to give back, that's great. But I just think that incorporating something that makes sense there as well. There are tons and tons of different charities that you can look up online and find out a good one to go ahead and incorporate with your business. And they would love to get some of your charity for sure. Absolutely. Cool. All right. Looking at my list here. Let's go. Okay. Let's dig into lightning deals. Now, these could be, from my experience, and I know your experience is a little bit different. I think we spoke about this before, but from my experience, it hasn't really worked for me, but I know for some brands it does. And just kind of hitting those lightning deals, if they're available in your account, and just kind of, supercharging that ranking in order to be ready to get set up for Q4. So if you could dig into the lightning deals and how you would utilize that.
So lightning deals, you're going to have offers come to you from Amazon. I don't think those offers have gone out yet, so probably expect that in October. And so Amazon's going to propose to you, the seller, what that deal is going to look like, and here's the percentage off that Amazon's wanting. You can either accept or deny that, and then you can also go into your under your advertising and deals. You could submit deal requests as well. Amazon obviously has the control and power to accept those, deny those, or make tweaks to those. Really, the benefit here is to have a massive boost to your BSR. So never look at lightning deals from a profit standpoint. And a lot of people are like, "What? Did he just say that?" So lightning deals are amazing for massively improving your BSR rank. And then that kind of drip feeds and spills over into 2022. And also, it's really helpful for getting rid of some inventory quickly if you need to. So a lot of people are overstocked. You're going to see a lot of sellers in Q4 that ordered way too much. And so a lot of people are paranoid. And that's also why we have a lot of congestion right now at the ports. And they're just going to have to think about getting rid of that, because, come January, now you're sitting on it and now you're going to have all these excess storage fees. So focus on that, and then really think about which of your products you want to see that massive boost to BSR. A deal's, $300 for a lightning deal.
Right.
So you have to, that's a question to you as a business owner. Is this worth it to me? For example, I always did a lightning deal every 2 to 3 months for my top sellers. So I wanted to protect my territory. I recommend all sellers listening right now to do that. That's year round. So, you could just call it once a quarter or once every 2 months. That's something that's really effective for maintaining your BSR.
Kind of just maintenance, right? Just hitting that lightning deal maybe once a quarter, maintaining that ranking, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can go outside of Amazon and you could do things like, slickdeals.com. That's another avenue for people. So what you do there, and I did this as well. This is free, and this is outside the lightning deals, but go to Slick Deals, you propose a deal through their site, and you offer a discount code. So those customers are very, very engaged, and it's kind of like a cult following. So they're very dedicated to each other, like providing real, honest feedback. If your product sucks, they will rip you a new one. So just keep that in mind. But you can offload hundreds, possibly thousands of units very fast, within a week. So that's something to think about as well. And then in terms kind of going outside of the lightning deals, also think about your pricing. So a lot of people are like, I'm going to maintain my price for my products, but then I'm going to increase all my bids for PPC. So it's kind of, the correct answer is opposite of that. So think about actually maybe raising your price a little bit and not changing your bids for PPC, And then what you can do is increase your budgets for all your PPC. So a lot of people go in and they tweak all of their bids. You really don't need to do that. So you have to think about, perspective. You have 4 weeks of it's a madhouse. Okay. There's going to be plenty of traffic. You don't need to adjust your bids, but you should 3x and 4x. That's kind of decision you're going to have to make. But think about, tripling or doubling your PPC budgets, and that goes for both the custom campaigns and auto. So that's something to keep in mind. And then also adding a coupon deal. So there's a large segment of people out there who, they might click your PPC ad, they'll go to your product. And I was actually on a call this morning about this, and I said, look, you don't have a coupon set up. And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Maybe I should add one. So coupons, you're capturing a segment of the population that was hesitant to purchase your product based on the price. But if there's a coupon, they will purchase from you. So you're not gaining like this huge increase of sales. You're just increasing a small percentage of your customer base that way. So, coupons, it could be $1 or it could be $5 or $10. It kind of depends on your price, $100 product versus a $20 product. But definitely add that coupon for Q4, and you could, if it makes sense, you can definitely do it now. And then also adjusting your price to always end with a 99. So instead of, pricing at $25.00, definitely always add it to .00. So, or sorry, .99. That causes urgency. And I see that with sellers all the time, and especially during consulting calls. And I always ask them, like, why did you do that? And they never have a good answer. And, if you look at all the marketing materials out there, 99 cents is going to cause urgency. And then the moment you go to 00, that makes it look more expensive. And so your conversions will go up.
Even .97 too. I play around with 97 and 99.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. And that's where, doing some split testing with PickFood, things like that, that'll be helpful.
Absolutely.
And some, it's weird. Some products do well with 97 and then others do well with 99, but nothing does well with 00. Just don't do it.
I always, I never put my products at 00, always 97, 99. Definitely to, like you said, to create that urgency, like, and look, makes it look like it's on sale,
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. And then another thing that I've been doing, and I wanted to pick your brain on this a bit, John, is I'll have my price, I'll have it high, not too much higher than the space in the market that I'm in. But then I will, the sales will go down a bit, but I'm getting more of a margin. But then once I go ahead and go back to my normal price, to my quote unquote sale price, Amazon now shows this red badge on your listing. I forgot exactly what it says, but it's like, it says lowest price offered, or since a certain amount of time, because Amazon will track what your price is. And then if you offer it, a dollar or two lower, Amazon will give you this badge. And then that makes you stick out as well. So that's also a strategy, is right now, maybe keep your price a little bit high. It could, you know what I mean? It will just, a little bit of a disclaimer, it will affect your ranking possibly depending on the space that you're in. Of course, there's a lot of variables, but it's good to test out. So maybe keep it at I'm not saying to increase your price dramatically and, outprice the entire space you're in. Say there's an average price of maybe, $20 in your space. Maybe have yours offered for 21 or 22, and then drop it back down to your price that you usually offer it at, and you'll get that badge, which will make you stick out and it will increase your sales.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's something to think about, but most, I would say people are blind to that. As long as it's not like some like crazy number, like $50 higher, and a lot of sellers, I mean, you're gonna get in trouble for that anyways. On Amazon, there's a threshold. You can only really increase your price incrementally by a small percentage. And so honestly, you should be doing this year round, is incrementally increasing your price, possibly every month, every couple of weeks, really testing the market to make sure you're not leaving any money on the table. And here's a reality check. Inflation is here. Everyone's prices are going up. And so as long as you justify the higher price with premium materials, incredible bundling, awesome product, that should be fine. It's not going to work for selling random trinkets and stuff that's just complete garbage. But if you're selling something, especially something that's unique, whether that's a special design where you have a design patent, and no one else is allowed to sell that, you should be increasing your price, because people are going to see that as, oh wow, that's really exclusive. There's no other seller that has that specific design. I'm going to purchase from you for a higher price. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, raising your price a little bit during Q4 makes a lot of sense, because people blindly shop. And so people are not, going around comparing prices. So they're just like, oh, it looks cool. Buy it for my kid. So
I'm looking at my listing now, and I do have it in front of me. So basically it's a red badge that says save, and then however much the percentage is. In my case, it says save 17%. So it shows what it was and then what you are now offering it at now. And then next to that save 17%, it says lowest price in 30 days. So it's just kind of cool to have that, because, that will make people, it's worked for me in my space. So, like I said, there's always lots of different variables and from each different market, but, like we're saying, just test it out if you like. So.
Absolutely. And in terms of pricing, it's just a madhouse for Christmas sales. And there's a tool out there called camel.com, and that's a great free tool for sellers to go back in time and look at the pricing history of their competitors, and you'll be able to see everything. So you'll see when they raise their price, how long did they keep the higher price. It'll tell you if the higher price was not successful in their space.
Yep.
So you can learn from other sellers what they did and not have to test anything. So be like, you know what? I've seen 3 sellers. They tested the $5 higher price, and that did not work. So it's a great tool.
So besides ad, I know we spoke a bit about some ad strategy. So besides increasing bids, increasing budgets, do you recommend maybe incorporating some different ad types? I know video is working a lot for my side of things, and it looks like some other people as well. Maybe, I would say to try to reach out to someone on Fiverr and maybe try to get a product video done so you can try to produce some video ads. And I don't know, I wanted to see what else you thought on that end.
Yeah, video ads are really, really successful. It's just that it's that visual element. It helps me understand quickly versus just clicking on a picture ad. It's very effective. Just keep this in mind, everyone listening. You're going into Q4. So if you have time to test that, you may not have enough time to truly know if that's successful. If you have, for example, if you have strong ACOS on your PPC campaigns, and you have some banner ads, things like that, you may want to stick with those and spend all your money just by doubling and tripling those PPC budgets. So that's something more like I would kind of tend to say you might want to experiment with that in 2022 and test that and get ready for Q4 of next year for that, because we're getting really close to game time.
Maybe just dig into what's working now and wait for the experimentation next year, right? Is what you're saying.
Because honestly, if you're exactly, I mean, if your ACOS is strong and you have everything dialed in, whether you're using an agency or doing a DIY, if you have strong sales and you're happy, Christmas sales, it's really honestly about just increasing your budgets, and you don't need to be tweaking your bids. And so Amazon wants you to increase your bids, but you really don't have to. So onward we go.
Onward and upward. That's right. All right, guys. So I'm just going to kind of just give a quick bullet pointed list. You guys definitely could listen to this back. Some great volume bombs in here. So make sure your inventory is good. You're talking to your manufacturers and to your shipping agents to make sure that you're going to get your product into Amazon before the fourth quarter here, so you can make sure you don't lose out any sales. Clean up those listings. Dig into Merchant Words, type in your main keywords to figure out what are the most current relevant keywords. Maybe you need to update some of your titles, some of your bullet points, some of your back end, and then also going into optimizing your images. So you want to make sure you have those good lifestyle shots, add some main keywords with a good value proposition inside of your images, because the buyers are buying with their eyes, meaning they're looking at the pictures. They're not always reading the entire listing. I really want to take a survey on how many people have read an entire listing on Amazon. I'm pretty sure there's people out there who do that, but I'm pretty sure it is a very low percentage. So then, going into looking at my list here, lightning deals. So lightning deals, to kind of boost that ranking, add a lightning deal now if it's offered to you, to increase that organic ranking up to that fourth quarter. So you're there at the top of the page. And then also slick deals was mentioned. That's a good idea as well. And make sure your pricing is right. And that's everything I have on here. I'm sure I missed something. Oh yeah, video. Don't if you have video and the ACOS is working there, double down on it, like John was saying. But if you haven't tested it, don't test it yet. Maybe next year. But then any of your ads that are working, just double those budgets. You'll live into Amazon selling success into the fourth quarter. Anything I missed there, John?
No, that's good. That's good. I'll give it a little, just a last little tidbit. So this is something that is really easy to do. If your product makes sense from a gifting standpoint or a stocking stuffer standpoint, it's actually really easy to do. So you can add some Christmas styling images into your existing images. So whether that's, putting a little stocking in the corner of your image or putting a little bow, don't do this on your first image. If you do see competitors do it on their first image, go ahead and report them, because that's totally, not allowed. But on pictures 2 through 7, think about adding some styling there that makes sense. Basically, uploading those images for those 5 weeks, and then going back to your normal images after that.
And you can get these images on Canva, which I use. I think it's like $7 or $10 a month. Very good investment for your business. Just, throw your images in there, put a little stocking or, some mistletoe or something up in the corner. Just so they have that Christmas vibe around your product. Good. Very good point, John. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, I just want to say thank you again for hopping on. Love the baby in the background. It's fantastic. My kids too, they're at school right now, or else you would hear them as well. I'm sure they're peppered throughout all of my episodes.
That's the problem with a really nice mic.
I know. It picks up everything. Right?
I know.
Love it. So cool. Thank you again, John, for coming on. And as you know, at the end of every one of our podcasts, we like to have our guests give our listeners one takeaway that they can implement into their business or into their lives. So what do you got for them?
Gosh, I forget what I said on the last episode, but I would say just really focus on saying yes to your customer, all the way up to, even if you are like really suspicious of someone scamming you on Amazon, go ahead and just make their day. Whether that's a refund or a replacement product, it's really, the number of people that are trying to scam sellers is very, very low. So, if you have suspicion about it, just go ahead and make their day. You should never be debating with your customers. If someone comes in and says, this product broke, like, don't go asking for pictures and say, like, send me a video, proving that. Just send them a replacement product, because, maybe they are scammers, or maybe they're someone who's like lying about something. But what they're going to take away from that is, oh my gosh, like, this person is like a really strong business owner. So really just put your customers first, all the way down to those people that you have suspicions for. And just think about, how you would want to be treated by a seller. Whether that's a DTC site or a seller on Amazon, you want your day to be made. Life is so busy that you don't want to have to deal with like weird conversations with sellers. So the answer should be yes. I want to make your day, and refund or product replacements.
Always totally agree. Thank you for saying this, John. Always go above and beyond for your customers. When I get that message on my phone, that alert from someone sending me a message like, "Oh, I'm missing a part," kind of disgruntled a bit, treat them with the utmost respect. It will come back to you tenfold. I promise. I promise. I promise. Like for one of my products, there was a part missing. And that was my fault because that round I did not get an inspection. So that goes back to make sure you get inspections. Yes. I use Topwin inspections, and that's like $100, $150. I use Topwin, Topwin. They're fantastic. Lynn, she's great over there. Anyways, so I'll respond to them right away. And then I will, for the one that was missing a part, I just sent her a whole entire new product, and she was just over the moon. And then they're going to be your cheerleader customers to go ahead and talk about you to other people, which is going to make your brand better, which is going to make your business better. And they're going to give you some good reviews.
Absolutely.
That way as well.
Absolutely. So, I'll just end on this quick little story. So I sold a really successful grouping of products. It was in the outdoor kids toy category. And if you ever have someone that comes and approaches you and says, "Hey, Mr. Business Owner, I run like this business or this charity or this daycare, I'm interested in getting a free product from you. And we're kind of like, we're kind of a bootstrap thing. We rely on charity money, really think about making their day." And so those people, so just think outside the box here, they have social media. So they also have a friend network. And so if you do that and say, even if this was $100 product. So this is not a cheap product I sold. And so sending to them resulted in amazing fanfare. So it's amazing what happens when you view it through the lens of the return on investment, whether $50 product or $100 product, the long-term return on investment and the impact on social media. So don't just look at it from a numbers perspective. Look at it from a long-term return on investment perspective.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So John, where can people find you if they would like to reach out to you?
Yeah. So I'm active on Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter, it's the handle is Black Label ADVSR. Just updated that actually, so it's easier to find me. And then if you go to my site, blacklabeladvisor.com, I'm on there. I have a contact form. I'm active everywhere. So, never think I'm never going to respond back to you. So feel free to contact me on there.
Awesome. Well, again, John, thank you so much for coming on the show, taking time out of your very busy day. And yeah, please guys, reach out to John. He really knows his stuff. That's why I invited him on for this podcast and hopefully some future podcasts here. So thank you again, John. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. Tommy, it's great to be on again.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. And if you got any value out of this podcast at all, please let us know at the place that you listen to it at, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, whatever it is. Give us some love, give us an awesome review, and let us know maybe some things you want us to talk about on the next podcast. Until next time, guys, stay awesome and be awesome.